Check. All right. Hello, everyone. Let's get started. Yeah, I have to do it. I come from the shoe company where I spent most of my career. And I'm going to start with this story that resonates a lot with what we did a lot in Zalando. So we give a lot of hypes for things, a lot of features, a lot of excitement for stuff. Are we good with the sound? Yeah? Yeah, a lot of excitement. Is this good? Is this good? All right. So as I was saying, we give a lot of importance for a lot of features. We make a lot of assumptions, and we think they will create a lot of success. And we invest a lot in it. It's a lot of betting on that. And this feature I remember very well because it made a big hype in Zalando, and we thought if we take a 360 view of a shoe, this will just upscale the shoe business. This is a new experience. This is a new way of selling shoes. And we invested a lot in that. So we took these shoes to the content creation. We went in the studio. We made a lot of pictures to model every shoe that comes into content creation to create this 360 view. A lot of development cost also to create the feature that creates this rotation. And then we rolled it out after weeks and weeks of work, including like many different departments. And after running it for a few months, we realized that for sales, no effect. Was it bad news? I think it was good news. At least we know that. So we had to take it off because it still costs a lot to create this 360 view. So we went back to the normal. And this happens every day in Zalando. We make a lot of assumptions, we test it out. If it works or if it doesn't work, both are good because we learn from it. I want to talk about transformation in general. So now in Native Instruments, we're going through a transformation phase. And we have two new people on board, like Nicola and Paul, to drive transformation in two parts of the organization, in the product organization and the marketing organization. And this is a very important transformation phase because we want to shift from being a feature factory company to just build features without knowing if they create value or not, just feature after feature. And we want to transform marketing to be more personalized and data-driven. And what I want to say about this transformation, it creates a lot of conflict in a lot of organizations. So I've experienced that in 3 companies before. Every time we come up with a new transformation, it creates a conflict of the old way of doing things and the new way of doing things. And this conflict happens because people get defensive or creative from both sides. So some people say, yeah, criticize from one side or defend from the other side. But this culture does not foster transformation. So transformation is not about the past was bad and the future is good. Transformation is about the past was good, but the future is going to be better. And now we're looking at transformation today, but also a few years from now, we're going to stand again with different people or the same people and talk about new transformation, talk about what we're doing today, what we're going to learn from it, and how we're going to transform again, because we need to be adaptable to how the market is like, to our users as well. If we don't adapt and change, then we don't have a business. The transformation that is happening today, I think it came from many different angles. So from design, they talked a lot about user centricity. From marketing, talking about user focus. From Nicola, also aligning the whole organization in a workshop to talk about user journeys. So it's coming from many different angles. Also becoming data-driven, getting the data team to facilitate that, to understand the user journey, to understand how to align the company, everybody around the focus of the user. So the user stands in the middle. We have the transformation that is happening across the organization, and we need to find the setup that would allow us to collaborate and understand how to build for the user. I'm going to talk about some stories of strategies from other businesses to look at different strategies and how people do it. So some good and some are bad. I'm just going to go through it. So EA Games, everybody knows EA Games. This company was crowned in 2004 twice in a row as the worst company in the United States. Even worse than the Bank of America. Voted by its own employees and its users. The main strategy the company went for is increasing lifetime value of games, exploring additional revenue streams, and capitalize explosion of mobile gaming. A very, very narrow strategy, very revenue driven. This doesn't inspire anyone. And this was the outcome. This article down there, it's about how this company redeemed its place again in the market. It's again a successful company. It survived this. They learned, they transformed, but it was a hard lesson for such a big company. Another company is Bourbon. So Bourbon was a company that was founded to create like checking in locations, earning points, posting pictures, a lot of features. And while this company is still in testing, they realized after they did some behavioral analytics that actually the most prominent sticky feature, so people who are still using the product in a sticky manner, was the feature of posting photos. So they understood that, they took everywhere else, decided to focus on this feature prominently, and by 2010 they launched Instagram. I think we all know the rest of the story. So Instagram has now 500 million monthly active users, was sold for 1 billion to Facebook. Another company is Zappos. It was a big inspiration for Zalando also to talk about customer centricity. It's inspiration for a lot of companies. It also was acquired by Amazon. A lot of its principles and concepts also were adopted by Amazon, by Zalando as well, and they have a culture, what they call customer-obsessed culture. Also a great example of transformation. And Zalando, where I also have been part of few transformations there. It's a company that understood the meaning of transformation, did it often, maybe also too often, that people were not able to keep up with the amount of change that was happening there, but still, it understand how it is necessary to adapt to each phase and transform. So one of the major things I remember from Zalando, so having a very unique selling point that is very obvious, that is very user-centric, and you can see it everywhere around the page. If you go on the Zalando website from 8 years ago, you will see on the top 100 days free return and shipping, versandkostenfrei, so shipping for free. The company over the years created a customer loyalty program, customer incentive program, created roles for customer centricity within the organization. It's a very data-driven organization, and part of the first transformation that we did, so also it was a big monolith in early 2013. And I remember days when something happened in the code base, more than 150 employees cannot work. They cannot test the software. So we had a lot of problems with deployment, with testing, with how automation in general. If something broke, 150 employees were blocked. So we did this transformation in 2015. In 2017, 2 years after, the company increased its revenues by 23%, because after the transformation, we became much more efficient and much more data-driven. Engagement. Engagement is a very important thing. It's a very important thing in building products. So this is an example from an engagement strategy by Amplitude about the life cycle of engagement. And if you're a product owner or if you're a strategic leader in general, you need to think about what kind of engagement strategy you're building in your product. How is your user interacting with the product? So from the first step, from curiosity, so see an ad, I land on some way to interact with the product for the first time. I'm curious about it, I buy it or I open it, and the first thing is this aha moment. And this is something you should be able to measure. What is this instant gratification? When you touch, I remember this, for example, from the first Machina. When I was a student, I bought the first Machina in 2011, and when I opened it for the first time, and this light show, it was still one color that goes across the Machina, this was an aha moment. I was really impressed. But the moment I connected it to my computer and I started using it, I realized that I need a plan, videos to watch, articles to read, a lot of stuff to learn to start using the Machina. It took me a few months. I waited for the summer vacation to do that. This is not the aha moment that I'm talking about. The aha moment is that when I open the app, I understand the value proposition immediately. I know what value I'm getting from this software. I feel it, I test it, and I understand, yeah, I like that, I want to use it. And the next thing is to find more features, more triggers to keep this value exchange. This value exchange that I get a value from this product, and I give a value to this company. Either I pay something, or I'm watching it, or consuming something. This is the value exchange between a customer and a company. If I achieve the step and keep this trigger for engagement, then I'm building an engaging product. What is the next step after value exchange? If I want to feed this back, then there's the social proof. How can I, being a customer of this, bring more people, bring this to more people to be curious about the product? And this is the engagement loop, engagement life cycle. Now I'm talking about this because if you're building a product, you should be able to measure that. At which part of, when you release your new product, at which part of the product usage this is happening? Where do you lose people? Do you lose people before this aha moment? Do you lose people in the value exchange? Do you need to adjust your pricing? Do you need to adjust your onboarding? This is very important for each product release. Most products, successful products, define a North Star KPI that drives this product. Align the teams that are building this product on optimizing for this KPI. I'm going to talk about some examples of KPI from different companies. So for example, LinkedIn, I don't know if you remember this feature, the endorsement feature. Do you remember it? Anybody knows it? So the endorsement feature was supposed to create more credibility for profiles, for people, for careers, and you could endorse your colleagues or people you've worked with. And what the company chose as a North Star KPI was the total amount of endorsements. So everybody in the team started building features to optimize for this KPI. Ending up with the feature, if you remember when you got this window on the top with 4 endorsements and you just click to increase endorsement, just increase endorsement, and it became invaluable. After some time, it devaluated the value of the feature, so it became not credible anymore, these endorsements that you get on your profile, and eventually the company had to shut down this feature because their North KPI of measuring the success or creating engagement was in the wrong direction. Spotify. I want to show the onboarding process for Spotify. I'm not sure if this is actual at the moment. I have my account since a really long time. But Spotify, the moment you create an account and you choose 1 or 2, 3 of your top artists, immediately you get few playlists. This is a value that you get immediately. So you land on the Spotify website, you try it out, you get a playlist curated automatically by Spotify for you. You immediately understand the value and get something out of it. This is an engaging product. I'm going to take a break here. So looking at these strategies and how different people, how different companies design their engagement strategy, I want us to think in Native Instruments, how are we going to drive our engagement strategy in the future? So now we're creating this transformation, how we're going to measure for our products this engagement, how we're going to improve this to create more engaging products. And this is very important to think about decisions in general. I'm also trying to understand my role a bit in Native Instruments, because when I arrived here, it was about building the data lake, building a data infrastructure. And with time, I realized if we deliver the data infrastructure, that's amazing, that's good. But is it enough? Does this make the company data-driven? Does it? I don't think so, because what I realized actually that there's a lot of culture missing to use data. How are we going to use it? It's not part of our daily business to consume data and build strategies around it and measure stuff. So even if we provide the tooling and provide everything and we don't have the strategic thinking behind it, it becomes invaluable. So then I understood that part of my role also is to improve decision making, measure it, make it transparent. That's why I want to talk about decisions in general. So I'm going to step out of companies and strategies and everything and just go to decision theory. Decisions. You make decisions every day. Actually, in fact, an adult makes around 35,000 decisions per day. A lot of these are business decisions as well. You attend workshops with your peers, you decide on features to implement, you decide on campaigns that you want to run. All of these are decisions that you make throughout the day. And I want to make sure that these decisions are strategic decisions that benefit the company. Well thought of. So what is the process of decision thinking? Identifying a decision. So let's say I come 8 a.m. in the morning, first thing coming to the native space, I look at the coffee machine on the left and the one on the right, and I'm deciding between which one I'm going to drink coffee from. Evaluating two different variants. Then comes the valuation. So putting a value. Is this the shorter path to this one? Is this one taste better? So this valuation process about, all right, I'm going to measure 2 different things and decide. This happens in milliseconds, and you do this 35,000 times a day. You execute it, and then you learn from it. And it's not so, it can happen also simultaneously within milliseconds. And what I'm interested in is this valuation, how we make decisions. So in the psychology of making decisions, there are three types: Pavlovian, habitual, and goal-directed. The first one is actually about compulsive decisions. Like, you don't think about them. They just happen automatically, like smoking after eating lunch. You're just used to it. You eat lunch and then immediately feel, yeah, I want to smoke a cigarette. The second one is this habits. And we do that because your mind wants to save energy. So if you take a habitual decision, you don't evaluate a lot of stuff. So this is what happens in every day-to-day business. If you're doing it the same way without evaluating what is this decision, what value I'm getting out of it, it becomes a habitual decision. And actually, this is something marketing uses a lot. If you give the user more information, they're going to make a goal-directed decision. If you take information away, then they make a habitual decision. Marketing uses strategies. And our business as a data team is to give you a lot of information to try to move you from habitual decisions into goal-directed decisions in your daily business. Enemies of strategic decision making. So time pressure, if you're on time pressure, like fast releases, over-dependence, you need someone to take decision for you, isolation, I don't get the full picture, lack of focus, many different things running at the same time, lack of data, it's not accessible, it's hard to get, it's unreliable, and cognitive biases. Is any of those familiar to you? I was expecting a no. So a lot of those are going to be covered, like we're having a strategic discussion in the company, so to fix our organization, to change the way we work together. But our business as a data team is to focus on the two on the bottom. Lack of data, we have to fix that, and cognitive biases, because if we have those, then also data is not working. And that's why I want to share this with you. So a marketing manager from the company Slack was on parental leave, and he was doing some research on cognitive biases, and he came up with, he found 200 different types of cognitive biases, and then he grouped them by different categories. One's about handling information, one's about handling the meanings of things, one about time, how to act fast and under time pressure, and one about memory, how much memory you can handle. And our minds, why do we have these cognitive biases? Because our minds want to spare energy. So you quickly prejudge things. I hear it a lot. I do it myself. Luckily, in our team, we have kind of a culture that we call it against each other, and it's totally fine to do that. So if you see a bias from your colleague, it's fine that I hear that, no, this is actually a bias that you're thinking that. We gotta test it. It happens. And I go into other meetings and I hear a lot, yeah, our user wants this and that. Our user does this, and the moment I hear that, it just clicks. That's a bias. There's no proof. We don't have the data to prove any of this. None of us have seen data that proves these statements. So whenever anyone says that, I just, my cognitive bias or my bullshit meter says, no, that's not true. 16 of which are killers for innovation and creation. I really advise you, if you haven't seen those before, like the 200 or the 16, that's why I share them, just not for the picture. I put in the end the references. Look at it, because you will notice a lot of them. You will notice yourself doing them all day. You will notice your colleagues doing them all day. And we need to learn to get over this and start thinking strategically. So from the ones that are more common to us in the business scope, for example, action bias. This is when you have a meeting quickly and the meeting is about to finish and you start like, okay, we need to take some actions. Let's put some action items. And you quickly put 2-3 things and everybody goes away. This is just for time pressure. Maybe another one, which also I see a lot, and we have to be careful of that one. I see a lot of good leaders that are careful of that one. Authority bias. If you're in a leadership position, your statement has more value than others. And you have to be careful when you drop a statement to make sure that it's equal to others. Because I see it in a lot of workshops when we gather as a group, and the one with the higher position, when it drops a statement, everybody goes into that direction. So don't use your weight to pull people's opinion. This happens a lot. Other than that, framing bias. This I see a lot. So looking at vanity metrics. So looking at number of subscribers, number of downloads, and seeing these numbers going upwards. We've seen that. We've seen that, looking at these numbers going upwards. This is a framing. So looking only at this thing and avoiding looking at other things and celebrating that. This is success. No, this is not success. This is just framing it. This is a bias. Sometimes people do it intentionally, and sometimes they don't do it intentionally. Both are bad. Two also, other important ones, anchoring and status quo. So status quo is like when you're in a creative process and you start from where the mess is. So you look at the mess and you start from there. This is a status quo, guys. Anchoring is the same. Anchoring is like when you start a new creative process and the first one who drops the first idea kind of lay down the basis for what's going to be built on top of that. So these two come a lot together. So next time you're in a workshop and you hear statements that come from biases or you see this happening around you, be aware. If you want to make a strategic decision, you have to value better your options. Why am I talking about this? Again, it's our success that our people do good strategic decisions. How do we do that? So what's the definition of a strategic decision? It is aligning short-term objectives with long-term goals and a mission that defines your company's big picture. We're working on that now. So our executive team now are gathered together to put OKRs and put a direction and a strategy for us to work against. But what do we do behind that? We need to set short-term goals with quantifiable milestones that we can measure, also known as strategic KPIs. We need to set KPIs to measure our success, to measure our engagement, to know where we're going with our products. A lot of people, so also it happened that the first week I joined Native Instruments, so just for the fact that we have a data team, suddenly a lot of people thought that we're data-driven, just because we existed there. And a lot of people came with the requests with amazing things. Of course, we want to do that. But we've been here for a few weeks. Just hiring the data team and hiring a team of people to build the data strategy doesn't make us a data-driven company. What makes us a data-driven company is that we all together start learning with the data team. The data team also has to learn how to serve the other teams to create these strategies, to give you numbers that will benefit you and change and adapt. And that's why just hiring a data team is not enough. So we need to work together on making better strategic decisions. All right, so I was talking a little bit about the outside world, about decisions, about cognitive biases. I want to step back into Native Instruments and look at how our data layout looks like. So when I first joined, our team did overview of the different tools of the data layout, how many tools we have in Native Instruments that contain data. And that's what came out of it. So many services, you have Heap here, you have ClickView, DMP, WebTrack, Google Analytics, some stuff on Facebook, you have stuff all around. How are we going to consume that? Also, we did a set of interviews talking to people. What do you want to have? What do you wish for? What is the ultimate goal? A lot of different keywords came from here and there, like segmentation, campaign success, KPIs, company goals, user journeys, reporting, market segmentation, active users, a lot of stuff, just to get, when we started, in which direction we want to go and how to organize ourselves to fulfill the company needs. So it took us some time to understand what are the requirements, what do people need, how to help them, what cultural change we need to do in order to do that. And throughout the way, we started working with different teams, and it started creating some friction. So let's be open about it. We have to be transparent. It started creating some friction. Some people didn't want to see numbers. Numbers are bad. We don't want them. And that's why I think it's a very critical moment to define the values that we want from data. And that's why I want to make the statement, we have to be radically transparent. Radically transparent. It means hassle-free access to data. Every employee in Native Instruments should see data very openly, good and bad. Good and bad numbers are good numbers, because the good ones tells you're on the right path, the bad one tells you that you have to change something. If we don't have this transparency, we don't have an equation for success. And if you feel in your unit that you don't have transparency, please talk to us. Let's escalate it. I know our superiors, they want us to succeed. They want us to be strategic. So we need to work together on establishing this level of transparency. What other values and goals we want to achieve? We want to align the analytics KPIs with the company strategy. So we're waiting for the company strategy, but we also don't have to wait. We could also look at what our product at the moment, what does it look like, and define our North Star, our set of KPIs that we measure and understand how the product is performing. What is the data team are going to do also? We're going to take ownership of analytics tools. We have a lot of tools. If I go back to here, we have a lot of tools here and there. One of our missions is also to kill most of the tools that we don't use and unite on tools that we actually can use, and the data team can guarantee the success of these tools. Fill it up with data. Make sure it's working right. Have the right roles and positions in the company that would support you to use these tools. Again, radical transparency. It's very important for our success. All right, let's go to our data vision. So to be data-driven, we have to be in every part of the company. So this data mentality is not going to work if we only do it in the product domain or only in the marketing domain. It only works if we do it all together and all at the same time. And that's why we need to split our vision into different directions. So I'm not going to go into the details of things, but marketing analytics, sales analytics, so this side on the business side, web analytics and product analytics, more focusing on the product side, so how the users interact with the products. If we fulfill these two and we have analytics and measurement on these sides, then we have in the focus in the middle the user. Building user profiles, analyzing journeys, understanding user behavior. And this is how we want to set up our roadmap into these directions, how we can align all of these together to make steps and connect all these together and start serving the user better. At the moment, we focus mainly on product analytics, as the teams still have to grow, softly on web analytics and sales. What are we doing on web? We're trying to update, to create a more better tooling there and get more understanding of getting better analytics on the web experience, connecting it with the product to see how people come from the web to using the product. For sales, we're working with Bernd's team on having one, so there's ClickView and there's also our tooling, but we want to unite the data in one place so that people can look at data at one location and don't have to go to 1,000 tools. So that's what we're doing with sales. We want to group the sales data, the web data, the product data all in one place so that you can have this awareness, this view of all data in one location. This is the big picture. So we want to collect data from all around the company, from marketing, customer support, central services, products, BI, and have it in the data lake. But this is not enough, because if we collect the data and put it in the data lake, that's a big architecture success. But that's not an organizational success. And to do the organizational success, we have to work together. I'm going to talk about the architecture first. I want everybody in the organization to understand what we're doing. And that's why I want to build up the architecture and blocks together to give people an overview of how data flows into the data lake and how are we going to consume it. So looking at the different data types that we have product software data, mobile apps, central services, web data, marketing, sales, support, user data, so different data types. We first have an ingestion layer that takes this data and just process it. We have two different types of ingestion layers. One is push, so this is when the teams actively have to design the tracking events, have to send us data. They have to design it for their specific use cases to understand the user behavior. Most on the left side is behavioral data. So teams have to push that. Other data already exist in different databases. And we have to pull that, like the web, or marketing, sales, registration. So we're going to build the data pipelines that are going to go and pull this data. And we're going to prepare the services for teams to send us data. What happens when we process data? So then comes the storage area. Two main areas to park data. One is the data lake. So this is dedicated for raw data. Everything that is coming is going to be dumped here. But this is not for consumption. This is for historical storage. If we want people to consume data, then we have to process it and make it beautiful for the sake of analytics. So it's going to be transformed to be consumable for analytic tools. So we're going to take it from the data lake and put it in a data warehouse, so that next step comes the consumption services, which the teams can use depending on the purpose. So not everything on the slide here is available. This is the big picture. This is we want to get there. It will take us a few years, and we're going to go there in steps. But the most important part is that we understand where are we going together and how are we going to adapt this. The consumption layer on the top, we only have from it the reporting tool. So we have Metabase. Anybody in the room doesn't know Metabase? All right. So I'm going to start with the data API. The data API is just to export and import data inside the data lake. Metabase is our reporting tool. Okay, now I can make an announcement. So it's going to be our main company reporting tool across data. So if we set strategic targets, if we want to look at the operations of our products, this is one tool where you can look at reports there. It's not ClickView. So there's a big difference between ClickView and Metabase. What ClickView is, it's an analytic tool. That's why it's slow. What Metabase is, it's a reporting tool. That's why it's fast, but it cannot do what ClickView does. So we have to understand the different variations, and we cannot compare them together because each has a different purpose. So the reporting is made to be fast, easy consumable by you. You can check it every day. You can look at operations real time, what is happening in my daily business, how quick decisions I want to make. Analytic tools are made to answer big and complex questions. It takes time to build queries. So this reporting tool is made to align the company and goals, measure them, track them, visualize them. The next is a CDP, customer data platform. So we have all these different data types stored in the data lake and the data warehouse. In the customer data platform, we will make this data accessible for the marketing teams, so they can build tools on top of that. What kind of tools? Personalization, email marketing, ad management, how we're gonna desegment customers. So this customer data platform is gonna be a user-centric view for all the data coming from here. And this will be the communication layer between the data team and marketing. The final two consumption tools on the top are for data scientists. We're not there yet to handle that. So, but one day we're going to be there. The catalog is similar when you go to an online shop and you start buying stuff. It's exactly that. But in the future, you're going to be able to shop data sets. Once we start creating more data sets, more events, it's going to get complicated. And that's what our role is to govern that, to make sure that the data is organized, that when you go to this data market, that you can see who created this data, what is its purpose, what is the schema looking like, because in the future we would be able to answer complex questions that the data scientists would go there, look at different data sets, find a way to connect them together, create a new data set to answer a complex question. And the catalog will be one tool to look through the different data sets that we have. And finally, an analysis tool, something similar to ClickView, which can answer big questions, hard questions, that is slow and take time. All right, also capturing quality. We also heard a lot our stakeholders talking about data reliability. We want people to have trust in data, and that's why we put a set of services to monitor the tracking quality, the data quality that we're having, and governance. How is data management, consent management, GDPR, guidelines to help people work and use data? And finally, culture. We have 3 different platforms to drive culture in Native Instruments. One of them is where I stand now at the moment, is the Data Owl. Another one which I'm going to release at the end of the talk is the Data Book. The Data Book is a website, a knowledge base for all information about data. The architecture, where we're going to go, the dashboards, how to use data, how to work with data, KPIs, the definitions of KPIs. Every time we're going to define a new KPI and make a definition for it, it's going to be there for people to understand why we designed it this way. Also challenge it if it doesn't fit your model. How can you define your KPI and share it with others so that we have one standard terminology of working with data. And finally, the COP. So the COP is a bi-weekly meeting where we gather together and talk about general data topics across NI. All right, by that I constructed the big picture, the vision of our data architecture. Let's look on how it looks like today. It's a mini architecture. So we started building that in Q1. In Q4 we did an MVP with running that on GCP. It was successful. In Q1 we made it a little bit more powerful. In Q2 we started releasing dashboards and we started actually using it. So it consists of 1 quality factor, 2 consumption services. So one for reporting is Metabase, which we released, and also now giving more and more access to people to start monitoring their products there. We still use Mixpanel. So Metabase is actually going to replace Mixpanel over time, but we still run both in parallel until The teams themselves, they have to decide and tell us if whenever they're ready to move completely, whenever they're happy and completely satisfied and served from Metabase, then we can switch off Mixpanel piece by piece. We have two ingestion services. One is the Datador, so we released that in the beginning of May. It's now currently actually all the behavioral tracking traffic is being handled by the Datador. And as an example, Tractor DJ2 is completely running on our in-house data infrastructure solution. So we're not using Mixpanel anymore. And slowly we want to start moving products into that direction, into our in-house solution, and stop using the third party. So the two main services that I want to highlight is Metabase, a central reporting tool for the organization, and the Datador is our behavioral tracking API. All right, so this is only architecture, right? So this doesn't make us data-driven. What makes us data-driven is how we use it. And the next step, what I want to talk about, is our journey as an organization to become data-driven. What are we going to do? So a lot of our stakeholders jump a lot of steps, and we also want to jump a lot of steps, but we have to follow the sequence. So if we're going to start a data journey with a specific team or as an organization, we have to go in these steps. Because if we jump steps and take decisions based on the steps that we jump, we're not able to measure if these decisions were right or wrong. So first we have to establish this measurement framework. Can we measure actually if the decision that we took based on complex question, was it a successful decision or not? If we cannot measure it, then we cannot do it. So step one, establish awareness. If I'm going to start as a team now working with data, the first thing I need to do is to understand where I stand. If I'm in a dark room and I want to go somewhere, first thing, I want to know where I stand. What's around me? Put on the light. What is my product revenue? What is its retention? What's its customer cost? What is its lifetime value? So this gives me a full understanding and awareness of my product to start making decisions and going in one direction. Okay, I want to go to the next step. Now I'm aware of my product and I want to take a further step. So I want to share that Spider KPI, that this is something we want to establish across all products, that whenever we release a product, we need to be able to evaluate the product in terms of marketing. How was marketing performance? What can we learn from it? In terms of business, how much value, revenue, lifetime we create out of it? Discovery, how did it reach? How did the consumers perceive it? Satisfaction. Value, what is the value proposition? So when we release a product, what is the main value that we want to give to customers? And we need to be able to measure that. Did we establish this value? And finally, engagement. Are people actually using it? Or are we just selling units and that's it? We want to establish this awareness across products. Once we have this, then we're able to take the next steps. We would be able to look at marketing and improve our investment. Which channels are more successful? Look at business. What is the upsell opportunities? Look at engagement. What do we need to fix in order to keep people coming, to keep providing value and keep the ball rolling? All right, if we establish this awareness, the next step is to, okay, I know where I have issues. I know maybe I have issues in engagement. So my next target is establish an engagement strategy. So work together on defining targets. What do we want to go next? If we establish these targets, then we can go one step further. Look at operational insights. Look deeper. Understand the user flows within the application. What is happening in there? And understand the operational, how users are using this product. If we establish that, we already completed a cycle from awareness to setting a target, to being more operational aware. The next step, you're becoming a data ninja. You can do this on your own, so you don't need the data team to help you anymore. You can set targets on your own. You can build your tracking events. You can look at your operations. You're independent, and that's what we want you to do. We don't want to build dependence on the data team. We want to go together in this journey, learn how to serve you there, to give you the right tools, that you become independent. That data culture is in every team. They use it. They do it. Only then we can step out, because we do a lot of the work now with the teams. When the teams are self-servicing themselves, then we can go into deep analytics, answering complex questions. But we cannot jump from step 1 to step 5 neither we can handle it as an organization nor as a data team. All right. One final journey I want to talk about, user journeys. So we've been talking a lot about user centricity and user journeys in the company. This is something also I talked aligned with Nicholas on to look on this picture together. So a typical journey is someone starting a free app, hopefully having this aha moment, did I get the value or not? Do I understand what's happening in there? Then using the product, searching sounds, building beats, making tracks, exporting. These are all part of the behavioral journey. Who owns this journey? It's the team, the PO, the designer, the tech lead, each from a different angle. How the flow is going, how does it look like? How technically is it's bug free? How is this working? The team together owns this journey, and they need to be able to identify which part of the journeys has issues and need to be fixed. And the team need to report on this journey on terms of engagement, retention, feature success, value proposition. So this is the behavioral journey. But this is not a full journey. So there's journey before it and there's one after it. The one before it is an acquisition journey. Now this is where marketing is more involved. Also owned by marketing and the PO. So what kind of KPIs we need there? How's acquisition? How much do we pay for it? Return of investment. How is the flow easy going from an acquisition? So we become, instead of building features, just this feature factory model, we're building journeys. So on each journey we pass to the next team to continue the journey, putting the user in the center of our production. Finally, the growth journey. So what is the next steps for the user? What is the opportunity there for upsell or integrating with a different part of the platform? We need to understand how users are going to traverse our platform. And there we need to report on growth, lifetime value. So what's in the middle there, this is a full journey of a customer. And this journey is owned by a strategic leader that can steer this journey by OKRs. And dealing with data across both sides. So we need to report on how the journey is performing, and the strategic leader need to be able to define objectives for this journey. Why am I talking about this? Because if this is the company strategy, that's great. How we as a data team are going to satisfy that? We need to connect the data sources together to give you this steps. You can see these funnels, how you can measure where people drop out, where we have high conversion rates, where our lifetime value is low, where it's high, what kind of journeys exist. What kind of personas do we have? So we need to understand also the customer. So what do they have in their studio? What do they have on the decks? What kind of speakers do they have? What kind of controllers? What kind of DAW they're using? We need to be able to give you these answers so that you can use this in making decisions. And we're not going to do this because we're going to do magic. We're going to do this because the team's also going to implement that. We have to have the tracking to answer these questions reliably and build it together. So while Native Instruments teams are going to look at the journeys of the customers, or we're going to look at the journeys of the teams. That's a different journey for us. So we have two-level journeys. We're going to support you look at the customer journey, but your journey is our focus, because as a data team, our user is every Native Instruments employee who can take a decision. Just an example, yeah? So if you're PO, you go through this journey from ideation to implementation to release to post-release. And in the ideation, you want to ask a lot of questions. And I want to show what the different services as a data team that we can offer you through this journey to help you also through the way. So what we can offer you at the beginning, if you start an ideation process, you do a lot of experiments, you want to conduct tests, you want to answer questions about the market, about the user, this data team can give you a data case. So we can write the questions together, we can try to find the data sets that will give you this answer. This is going to be also a lot of collaboration, more heavily on the customer insights, because this is more explorative. But whenever there's a data question, we're also there to help. But this is more an ideation process in the hands of James. Now comes the implementation. When we go to the implementation phase, then we can help you with building tracking concepts. Feature tracking, value proposition tracking. You set the values and targets of your product, so we need to make sure that your product contains that, can track it, can report on it. So we're going to support you with these tracking concepts. You did a release, we're going to support you with a release dashboard, monitoring the day of the release, what is happening, good or bad. Is it as expected or not? And as I said again, we need to be very radically transparent. So good and bad are good. We need to establish the culture that we stand on the stage and say, hey, we made this assumption, but it was not right. And we're going to change it. If we don't have this culture, then we're never going to make a change. Finally, after the post-release, we got to look at operational insights. So looking deeper into your product, how is it behaving over time? Looking at new strategies, so steering the product in a different direction and adjusting and setting new targets. So this is the journey of our user. It looks very similar to the data journey. So if we start doing this with a product, it means that once we start this together, when you start your ideation, you establish your awareness. When you build your tracking concept, you set your targets. When you release a dashboard, you measure your success. And in the end, you have operational insights. So once we go through this journey together within a product, afterwards, we and you become a data ninja for that product. So if you're a strategic leader and you want to start working with data, how to start? Let's start this journey together. Let's define your North KPI that align your teams to success, and let's build this journey together. Let's establish awareness, set the targets, look at operations, allow you to self-service, and then we can answer deep analytics. So from today, we are open to accept anyone who wants to start with data, to set these targets together and start kicking it from there. So that's not really the end. I said I will share the data, show the data book before the end. So this is the knowledge base that we created to help people start working with data and understand what's going in the data team, what is the data vision, data culture. And we want to also align with everybody in the company. So everybody who has data experience, we want to highlight also the evangelists who can use data and make sure they also play a role in this cultural change, because we have a lot of people who have a lot of data experience. On this knowledge base, you will find everything. So from the data vision to the data architecture to the latest releases, from KPIs, you can look at definitions of metrics. So for example, a few months ago, Michael designed the monthly active user. Here is an exact definition of what is the monthly active usage model. How did we define it? You can read it and understand in order to make better decisions based on that. We could also, looking at the Tractor DJ2 release, this is the first time we set for a new product, for a new release, a strategic dashboard, looking at KPIs defined by the PO and actually having it visible for everyone. Everybody who has an account to Metabase can go and open it and check it out. Radical transparency. We have also an operational dashboard that shows the operation of how people use their experience with the product. I will not go into the details of the dashboard. I will leave this for Michael and another Data Owl talk, but it's available for everybody who have access to Metabase. You can go and check it out. Going back to the data book, so everything that you want to link to, you will find this as a central hub, a knowledge base for everything about the data team. You will also find our services here, the team layout, how to contact us. You can also go to the Data Owl. This talk is going to be there soon, so here it is, coming soon. You could also find all KPIs and metrics that we're going to define. So there are not so many at the moment, but with time and with more requests from the teams, we're going to design more KPIs and we're going to document them there. So the data book is ready. I'm going to share the website with everyone so people can start using it. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out anytime. Thank you. Questions or go home. Good question. It depends on all of us. The faster we cooperate, the faster we collaborate. As I said, it's a journey that we have to do together as a company and not on the data team. So from the architecture side, this is something we can estimate. We know how the architecture, how long does it take to build. This is something can we estimate. But the cultural change that we have to do in the company across the organization, this depends on us on how fast we adopt this culture. See, Carson is very happy back there. All right, thanks a lot, and have a good evening. Thank you.